The sequel trailer for Breath of the Wild recently released a few days ago. In this trailer, we see a mummified figure that resembles that of the evil Gerudo King Ganondorf himself. Along with this figure, we see a mysterious green glowing hand holding the figure by the chest. What this figure is and what it is doing is not exactly known, although we can speculate that it is most likely a seal placed on Ganondorf, keeping him from being able to fully resurrect. As in the beginning of the trailer, we see some squiggly lines that are actually an ancient language that many fans have translated as saying Sil Ganon. So if this is the case, then that would mean that the mummified figure before us in the trailer is in fact Ganondorf himself, and that this hand is sealing him away. This would explain why in Breath of the Wild he only appears in the form of malice, because he can't resurrect, and so he chooses to come in the form of malice as the only way to be able to wreak havoc throughout Hyrule and maybe break the seal along the way. However, in the trailer we see that he does break this seal and that he does resurrect, as his eyes glow red and he looks towards Link and Zelda, and then Hyrule Castle begins to levitate off the ground, much like Ganon's castle floats off the ground, hovering over lava in Ocarina of Time. Another thing is that the green hand that was sealing Ganon appears to have grabbed onto Link, and it also seems that it fuses with Link's right hand. Now, what I believe this green hand is none other than one of the many sages throughout the land of Hyrule. I believe this is a sage giving its power to Link so that he can get strong enough to defeat Ganondorf and seal him away for good. Now, in the trailer, we see for just a second what appears to be the front entrance of a temple or a dungeon of some sort. If this is in fact a classic dungeon and temple, then I would expect that maybe after we defeat these temples and dungeons, we will get another one of these green hands to appear, or maybe it's a different color hand appear that will fuse with Link. When it fuses with Link, it will give it its power, much like in Ocarina of Time when Link defeated a dungeon, he received a medallion. However, I think this will be a little different, because I think when Link fuses with this power, he will gain an ability. So maybe if there's a classic fire temple, he'll gain a fire ability. A water temple will give him a water ability. Maybe he can go underwater and breathe underwater. Another thing he might get is ice abilities in the water, if there's a water temple. Or if he goes to something like a shadow temple or a wind temple, he could get wind abilities. So maybe he gets different types of abilities. Maybe one of those abilities is a transportation, where he can teleport from one point to another. So maybe when he absorbs this power, it gives him new abilities to be able to do things faster and more efficiently, making him more powerful. And this game could possibly have more than just 7 sages like traditionally known. Ocarina of Time, we had 7 sages, but Breath of the Wild could expand on that with far more sages, and we could have 14 sages or so. Who knows? Another thing that I thought was interesting when looking at the trailer, and another reason that I believe that these are the sages, is that when you look at the bird's eye view of the green swirl in the trailer, and you see that ancient writing within the green swirl of this hand, it really does resemble the same looking symbolism of the medallions in Ocarina of Time 3D. Like, it looks exactly the same, and so maybe there is a connection to it, and this is in fact one of the sages. Now, which sage it could be, hard to say, as it appears we are under the castle in this trailer. Although we may not actually be under the castle, we could be in a temple, and that castle rising is a later part in the game, and it's just to make us think it's not. So maybe we're in a temple, maybe we're under the castle. I'm not 100% sure about that, but what I do know is that Ganondorf is definitely back, and that I think the hand is a sage. Link is going to fuse the sage is going to fuse its power with Link, and then he's going to gain some abilities. I do think I saw some concept arts for Breath of the Wild where Link loses his hand, but then gets like a robotic hand that gives him abilities, you know. So maybe they're going back with that idea, but not quite the same, where he loses his arm. Maybe instead he gains abilities, like I said previously, such as wind abilities or the ability to breathe underwater or something of that nature. Maybe he gets those kind of abilities instead of a robotic arm, like earlier concepts for Breath of the Wild. That's just my theory on it, but I do think it's very possible, and I'm looking very forward to the possibility of dungeons making a comeback. I think that's going to be very interesting, because the Divine Beast and Breath of the Wild, they were okay, but I much prefer classic dungeons. I hope we get the good classic ones like the Shadow Temple, because they said this game is going to be darker. So to get a Shadow Temple type of dungeon would be really good, to see re-deads and things of that nature, dead hands, things of that. I definitely want to see classic dungeons, and even something like the Forest Temple, because that was also a dark dungeon. So I'm hoping that's what we get. I hope we get a lot of that. I'm looking forward to Breath of the Wild sequel. Cannot wait. Even though we only got a 1.5-minute trailer, I'm very excited, and I just wanted to make this quick video talking about it because I thought it was kind of interesting, and I just wanted to put it out there. And so I want to end this video here, and I'll see you all on the next one. See you then.